Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy. I'm your host Lex.
And I'm your other host Dan. And boy howdy, do we have some shit to talk about this week. Ooh,
Don't bump the mic stand.
I hit the mic as I was sticking out over here. So we're a weekly video game news podcast. We broadcast live on Twitch and on Chipbit Radio on chipbit.net. We're also on all sorts of social media. All the usual suspects, really. As either DCTF Podcast or
just Don't Copy That Floppy.
Or just Don't Copy That Floppy
yeah.
podcast.
You know, see, this episode we're recording at my house, it already feels wrong because I'm always on the other side of you.
I'm on the left today. This is weird.
Disgusting.
What an uncomfortable episode this is going to be. And I'm not in my big cushy chair. It's miserable.
But yeah, so aside from following us on social media, you can support the show in a myriad of different ways, including leaving us a review on iTunes.
That's like the simplest, easiest way.
Yeah, and it actually really does help a lot.
It does.
And rating us on there, or if you got some money bags, if you're like a Scrooge McDuck type character.
Or some sort of Monopoly man.
Yes. You can find us on Patreon.
Yes.
And I think we're a DCTF podcast on Patreon.
Yes.
And you can support the show by giving money that way. There are all sorts of cool different reward tiers. Yeah. And also you help us reach milestones like doing a Twitch channel, like doing YouTube videos, all sorts of stuff like that. Last week we were at PAX.
Yeah.
And we did a whole show on it.
Thanks to the Patreon people.
Exactly.
They paid for our PAX passes.
We also have a great capture card, thanks to them as well.
So we ain't just using that money to buy sandwiches and, like, drugs. We use it to help the show.
We're only using some of it to buy drugs.
Only some of it? And none of it for sandwiches.
There's not left over after the drugs.
So what do we got to talk about this week?
Well, we've got a story about Monster Hunter, which if you're watching the live stream, you can probably already see. Yes. We've got a couple of different leaks coming out of Europe about AAA games that are coming up. We also have Xbox Live had some problems. And then one of our bigger stories is the whole JonTron controversy.
We weren't really going to talk about it?
No, because it actually happened last week.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to talk about it then because I was like, no, this is like, this is gossip stuff.
But it keeps getting worse.
And there's actually some like legitimate industry news to that. So we're going to be talking about that. Then new Overwatch info to talk about.
New character went live.
Yep.
So that's exciting.
Got some news about Neo. Got some news about third-party game pricing on the Nintendo Switch.
Which is somewhat concerning due to the fact that we were just talking about how good of a, like, indie game machine it was shaping up to be.
Yeah.
This is kind of like, but we'll get to that.
Also, so a little bit more fallout on that, those horrible
animations.
Those horrible faces.
Terrible nightmare faces and crab walking monstrosity.
Then we're going to round out the show by talking about some upcoming games this week and next week. And we're going to top everything off with an amazing 1 minute long video from Breath of the Wild that just it makes you love again.
I want to give a brief update since you just mentioned Breath of the Wild. Because last time we talked about this, I talked about how Breath of the Wild just came out, and I really loved it. I've been playing it like crazy, and it's amazing. But I said, gotta give it some time to mellow.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta give it some time to mellow out. It's been 3 weeks now.
Uh-huh.
I've been playing the game very consistently these whole 3 weeks. Still not bored.
Good.
Still finding new stuff to do. I've done 3 of the 4 dungeons, so I'm not even done with, the story stuff. I still really like it.
That's good.
I feel like I'm going to come out of this with giving it a very high rating overall. So, if you were worried about Legend of Zelda's staying power, don't be.
And
if it's the kind of game you like, I could see this not being a game for everyone in the way it's paced and kind of sectioned out.
And some people just don't like open world games,
right?
And that's fair.
I'm hit or miss on open world games, but ones that reward exploration and encourage exploration, like this one, I am all for. I like it.
I think that's how all game reviewers should do things. Just release their review like a month after they've started playing the game.
Especially with big AAA releases.
Yeah,
there gets to be so much hype for those games.
And there's a lot of content because there's a lot of people working. Like, hopefully, there's a lot of content. There's a lot of people who work on them, so there's a lot of stuff produced.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about
Monster Hunter Double Cross.
Now, I found this story and I was like, I got to put this in the rundown because Dan's gonna want to talk about it.
Yo, I love that Monster Hunter. Boy. I've been playing that shit since the PS2.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say that I'm an OG Monster Hunter player. I'm one of these suckers who goes on Monster Hunter forums and talks about how hot shit they are because they started playing with Monster Hunter Freedom on the PSP.
Oh.
You guys are all poser fucks. You didn't play Monster Hunter on the PS2 in 2004. So unless you can back up your talk, shut it. And I have a t-shirt that says I've been playing it since 2004, and it's not a lie.
Physical evidence.
Physical evidence.
So, in a story from yesterday, or not yesterday, the day before yesterday, which was Wednesday, the 22nd, from Destructoid, we found out that Monster Hunter Double Cross is dominating in Japan in terms of sales.
Shocking no one.
Shocking no one. But it is also spiking 3DS sales there.
Yes.
Which is good.
Monster Hunter is kind of a big deal in Japan. It is substantially less of a big deal in the United States.
Yeah.
But it's in Europe, but it's catching on.
Yeah, Monster Hunter, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but I felt like Monster Hunter was always one of those things that it was such a big deal in Japan, they could afford to bring it to other places, and then even if it didn't do well, they could still bring the sequels in.
And it has been doing steadily better as time goes on in other territories. It's still, like, 3 Ultimate was the first one that really started pushing it over here, and then 4 Ultimate did great. And as far as I know, Generations, which was Monster Hunter Cross's name over here, also did rather well. No idea if Double Cross is going to come over. Probably will, I would imagine.
Eventually.
Eventually. The weird thing with Cross and Double Cross is that they're not really mainline entries in the series. They're like anniversary games. So they didn't really have a big step up in tech from the 4th generation games. But they're just rather collections of maps and monsters from, like, all the different games. From, like, the 1st generation of games onward. With updated gameplay mechanics and things like that. And the addition of, like, weird super moves that you can use that are actually pretty fun. But I feel like it's an odd one out in the franchise, because it's like they're holding over while they work on 5. Because 5's going to be the next actual big step up. And I am praying that 5 is on the Switch. And has an updated, like, graphics engine and stuff. Because the game really needs to pull itself out of the PS2 look.
Yeah.
That game has never really graduated from looking like a PS2 game. And this is, like, their chance to finally do it. Except for the Chinese MMO version of the game, which is crappy. So it doesn't count. Even if it looks pretty, like, who cares? It doesn't play good.
So this is...
Game sold like crazy.
Yeah, it raised sales of the 3DS, which 2DS, new 3DS, new 3DS XL, new 3DS Lite, new 3DS Pro, new 3DS Scorpio.
The old new 3DS.
Uh-huh.
Scorpio.
But it raised the sales of all these things, or at least the ones that exist.
The 3DS bone.
The 3DS bone. So it raised the sales of all those models that actually exist by 179%.
Wowie zowie.
Which is pretty impressive.
It's almost tripling their sales. And it was 850,000 physical sales of the game, which for Japan is a lot.
They just got less people.
That is like a lot of game sales, though. That means almost 1 in every 150 people in Japan bought this game release day. And that's counting, like, old people and babies who don't play video games. And if there's one thing Japan has a lot of, it's old people. Babies, not so much.
Babies, not so much.
But old people, damn straight.
Oh, yeah.
They're everywhere. So, yeah, it did great. These sales are marginally less than the previous entries in the series. It's actually gone down a bit since Monster Hunter 4. But not in any substantial way. Yeah, I'm talking like... Excuse me, I'm so yawny. I'm talking like I mean, it's like down like 100,000, I want to say. I think from the numbers I looked at, which is a lot, but it's still 850,000 copies.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because this is, I don't want to call it a Band-Aid game, but it is kind of a Band-Aid game for the franchise. It's like a holdover till we get the next main entry.
Yeah.
It beat the shit out of the Sword Art Online game that came out.
What? It's like you don't like Sword Art Online.
I mean, they still kind of like it.
Oh.
I mean, I don't. I think it's funny that this game is Excel World versus Sword Art Online, though, because Excel World is the other novel that the guy who wrote Sword Art Online wrote after Sword Art Online.
Can Excel World just be about Microsoft Excel?
So Excel World is a substantially better story than Sword Art Online. Like, they did an anime of it too, but it didn't get as popular, so they're never going to continue it, because they can just keep doing Sword Art. And it's tragic to me, because, like, Excel World's not a masterpiece or anything, but it's objectively better than Sword Art. Like, objectively.
Well, it's about spreadsheets, so it makes sense.
No, it's about people in a video game.
In a spreadsheet video game?
No, it's contextualized better than Sword Art, though.
Man, I gotta play Kingsway.
Yeah, you'd love that, apparently. So yeah, this is great. Monster Hunter continues to sell like fucking crazy. I will also say I watched a video of the final boss monster that was added to this one. It's like a new guy. That thing is crazy cool.
Nice.
It's a giant like praying mantis who whips around like little spider threads, and you fight him in the desert in these ruins of this old fort. And he pulls up like old ancient dragon fighting weapons out of the sand and manipulates them with his strings to fight you.
Oh.
So, like, in the old game, in all the games, there's this big weapon called a Dragonator, which is basically just a big pile driver spike that they mount on stuff, and you just stab the shit out of huge dragons with it. And it's a big part of fighting a lot of the giant boss monsters. But in this fight, you don't get to use a Dragonator. This monster uses a Dragonator on you.
Oh my god.
Because he just pulls Dragonators out of the ground and throws them at you. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's really clever. And it's the first super crazy boss monster that's been really tough that is an insect.
Oh.
They have had insect enemies before, many of which were really cool, but they've never been, like, top build. Which is unfortunate, because they've made some really cool insect enemies. But this guy looks great. So yeah. And there's a picture of him. There's, like, a weird griffin-looking guy with, like, rocket jet wings. Not sure how I feel about him. That guy. Not sure how I feel about that guy. He might be a little over-designed for my taste.
A little bit.
But what are you gonna do? Not everyone can be a winner. Not everybody can be robot manipulating praying mantis. So, what do we got about Assassin's Creed here?
Oh, Assassin's Creed. Do you remember Assassin's Creed Empire?
Kinda.
No.
I remember them saying at one point they wanted to make an Egyptian Assassin's Creed game.
Which would have been fine.
Would have been fine, except Egypt didn't exactly have a lot of huge buildings to climb on.
It had, like, the couple of big buildings that were pyramids.
Yeah.
That was... Yep.
They had some palaces and stuff.
Yeah,
too,
no, that's
big,
true.
But they were largely just a bunch of pillars and stuff. Not a lot going on.
I mean,
there.
you run into that problem when you go that far back in history with any civilization.
That's true.
Because cities just weren't built up as much. Anyway, so news broke in VG 24/7
Yes.
on March 20th that apparently a Swiss retailer listing, some basement Columbos discovered, there was a listing for Assassin's Creed Empire. Apparently, it could be out before the end of the year. I don't know.
Are we due for an Assassin's Creed this year?
Well, they had talked about how they weren't going to make one a year anymore.
And they didn't make one last year.
Yeah, so supposedly get another one, but, you know, it's still... They can always push it back if they want, because they haven't made that promise.
Right.
But it's just like, it's still very little to go off of, because it's pretty much just concept art.
Yeah.
And...
Have I ever talked about how I think it's weird that Assassin's Creed, of all things, took off as this giant AAA behemoth?
A little bit.
Like, I don't get it. I feel like it doesn't have the staying power that it needs.
No, I mean, it doesn't.
You're a dude in a white cloak who kills people.
It's cool, but it's not...
It's not like that cool.
It's not... I mean, I guess it's really cool, but it's, it doesn't have a lot of staying power.
No,
like
the only gimmick is, like, where's it set this time?
Mm-hmm. What about the American Revolution?
Oh, that was a great idea.
That was
That game is miserable to play. I don't know if you ever tried playing 3. That game is, like, fucking miserable.
Although, making it a pirate game was a good idea.
Yeah, but that's not even, like, Assassin's Creed. Like, Black Flag is not even Assassin's Creed.
It's true.
It is Assassin's Creed in name only. They just should have called it Ubisoft's Pirates. That's what it is.
We've got, supposedly, what was it? We have one retailer who believes the game will launch in the fourth quarter of 2017, so the end of the year.
If there's going to be one this year, that's when it's going to be.
Yeah, because, come on. But, what was it? I think that's normal retail for Europe.
Sure.
Probably. Which was 80, what is that, francs? Is that what the French use? Or no, this is Swiss.
Swiss francs.
Swiss francs.
Yeah, they're francs, but like a little bit more Swiss.
So like
they have holes in them.
They're hot dogs. They're Swiss hot dogs.
Yeah. In a giant, confusing muddling of French and German culture, you have hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
That's like way more accurate sounding than it should be. So yeah.
Do we think we'll see anything at E3 about this?
Do we think we will?
Yes.
I think we will see an Assassin's Creed game. I'm not going to hedge my bets on it being Egypt.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
What were the ones they put out? There was those ones they put out as like little mini games that were like Russia, India, and did they do China?
Were those the mobile ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Russia, India, and China?
I think so.
Because then they've already done China, so they're not going to do China. They're going to do Japan. I would guess Japan over Egypt.
You know, I'm surprised they haven't done Japan yet.
Because people have been bitching at them to do it for like the longest freaking time. And they did China. People were bitching about China too, but then they did China in a phone game. Because they're jerks.
Yeah.
Because China would be really cool.
It would be really cool.
But what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Maybe not pay attention to Assassin's Creed, because...
hey, we happen to have another story about a game we don't want to pay attention to.
Oh, man!
Oh, what even is this game? I'm paying so little attention to it.
On Eurogamer, on the 23rd, so yesterday, we found out that also in Europe, I think this was maybe the French, leaked a Destiny 2 poster, which reveals its release date.
So I'm not to be that guy who's like, I totally saw this coming, but this is not shocking news, because when they first released Destiny in September of 2015, they said, we plan on releasing major content for the next year, and then releasing a sequel in 2017. 2 years later.
Yeah.
So the sequel's coming out exactly 2 years after the first game.
Uh-huh.
What a surprise! It's exactly what they said 2 years ago.
Well, I mean, they planned it. I'll give them credit for having a good schedule.
This barely new.
This is, I'm sorry, this isn't France, this is Italy.
Yeah.
I apologize, it was the boot place.
Yeah, in Anticipo. God, man, that's not French. Go back to Switzerland, idiot.
Idiot. Go eat some tiny hot dogs.
Tiny hole-filled hot dogs.
But
buy things with them.
So, September 8th, 2017, that's when this is supposed to come out. I was reading something, and I don't know if it was in this article or a different one, but I was reading something about how the contract with Bungie stipulates that they need to stick to this release schedule, like a release schedule where they need to have something coming out, like so if they didn't release Destiny 2 around this time, they would actually be looking at like losing a ton of money.
That's interesting.
Which is really not a good motivation, because that's the kind of motivation that leads to subpar games.
Probably a more common motivation than you'd think.
Probably the motivation for a lot of Assassin's Creed games.
A lot of video games in general.
Maybe for a certain Mass Effect game that
certainly for a certain Mass Effect game.
This is speculation,
I would
folks,
say,
but probably true. It's probably true. It's probably true.
Xbox Live.
Oh yeah, I also want to check.
What happened to it?
I want to check. That's how far in we are. I've got a timer. We're 20 minutes in.
Really? 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, this week, Xbox Live went down. It was a big deal because
People wanted to play video games.
we wanted to play video games.
Much like when the PlayStation Network goes down, people were upset.
People were very upset.
Yeah.
But this was Xbox One, 360, and PC. There was all sorts of sign-in issues. You couldn't purchase content.
No,
which
microtransactions.
It ruined our microtransactions. I'm sure the only person upset about that was Microsoft.
Yeah, right. No one can buy things.
Fix it. Who cares if they complain? That's not important.
Yeah.
But this is it was for most of the day. And I was looking around for articles to see if they released news on what caused it, but I could not find any as of the recording of this podcast.
Yes.
So we don't know if this was a DDoS attack.
It's probably just some weird thing.
Yeah, like their server just got
back up like fast.
Someone poured like a Mountain Dew on their server. Yeah.
It's like that scene in Megas XLR where they accidentally teleport the drink onto the computer console in the end of Alien Spaceship.
Yep.
And then it slides down the console and splashes and destroys the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
What a good show.
It was a great show.
I love that show.
Dude, Bruce Campbell was the voice of a character in that.
He was!
He was the floating head.
Yeah!
Yeah, man.
That show was wonderful.
Oh.
Canceled before its time.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that back after Symbionic Titan Adult Swim.
If we just had more giant robot shows...
That's what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
Bring back after Samurai Jack is finished. Bring back Symbionic Titan. Finish that with Tartakovsky. And then bring back Megas XLR.
You know what we're going to talk about in our bonus content?
We're going to talk about Samurai Jack.
We are.
We're going to talk about the shit out of Samurai Jack.
We are. And if you want to hear our discussions on Samurai Jack...
You're going to want to.
You can... that's one of the rewards you get for being a Patreon patron.
Yeah.
I think it's the $10 tier.
I think it's the best reward.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have interesting conversations.
I mean, there's a tier where you get sexy voicemail, but...
Yeah, but that's for, like, high rollers.
Yeah.
If you're a high roller, try us. Anyway. That's enough shameless plugging.
Can you tell that we didn't care very much about Xbox Live going down?
I don't have an Xbox.
I don't... Wait, yeah, I do.
I mean, I have an Xbox 360 and OG Xbox, but I never play them anymore.
Yeah. Dude, can I borrow your Xbox 360?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
You're not playing it.
No, I have all the stuff for it, so...
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our big story of the day.
So, all this JonTron shit happened.
All this JonTron garbage.
In summary,
so, yeah, the precursor is last week.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was over the weekend.
It was recent history.
JonTron, John Jafari.
John Jafari. Yes.
Jafar, the Vizier from Aladdin, was on Twitter, and he was defending Republican Congressman Steve King's comments.
And that's kind of where this all snowballed from.
Yeah.
Because people were like, dude, why are you defending this
Yeah,
guy?
and if you guys know, Republican Congressman Steve King of the U.S. said some things that could easily be construed as extremely racist.
Yep.
And JonTron was like, whoa, you're just trying to silence free speech. That's his opinion. You gotta let him say that. And then a lot of people were like, hey man, why are you a jerk? And then he just kept continuing and he kept going more
As
more
we
deep.
Joked about before this, he kept digging that hole.
So
and it's gotten pretty bad.
So Destiny and not Destiny 2. But
so I was so confused when you sent me this. You were like, did you watch the interview between JonTron and Destiny? And I was like, why is JonTron talking to Destiny? Is Peter Dinklage involved?
I know, that would have been great if it was Peter Dinklage's little floating ball.
JonTron somehow had a debate with the game Destiny, and I was like, is this some weird, like, avant-garde comedy video he put out?
Or like a marketing scheme for Destiny 2.
What?
But no, it was, he's a professional gamer, I forgot what he plays.
I think he was a StarCraft player.
Who goes by
wrong about that.
Goes by the gamer name Destiny.
Yeah.
And he has a stream, because he streams
Very
his
My
games.
Little Pony.
Oh,
of him.
Yeah. So he has a Twitch stream. He streams his games, and he reached out to John that same day over Twitter and said, "Hey, do you want to come on my stream?
I can put the stream up right now.
Yeah, and we can discuss this. Let's have a discussion about this.
We can talk. You can hash it out. You can play out your viewpoints. And talk.
Now, if John had been a smart person, he would have said, well, maybe let's not do it right now. Maybe
let's do it in like a week.
Yeah.
We can both prepare our talking points.
Yeah.
You know, like most people have debates.
Yes, like a real debate. But instead he's like, no, sure, sounds great.
And the problem with that was that Destiny clearly had prepared his talking points, whereas John had not.
And you didn't watch it, Dan.
I made kind of a decision not to.
It's a 2-hour thing. I don't think the debate lasts the whole time. I think that I was watching another video where they said it lasts 80 minutes.
Yeah.
I got 50 or 60 minutes in, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
Like, I've seen enough. I get it.
There's
you can find roundups, like bullet pointed things of
which is probably what you should do.
Yeah.
But it's just the whole thing is JonTron being like
pretty much being really racist.
Yeah.
And just saying that he's not.
Like he it turns out his political ideology is very much in line with the alt-right, for those who know what that is. And that whole interview debate thing was just him
kind of floundering around, citing really, really false statistics repeatedly.
I mean, he said things like rich black people are still commit more crimes than poor white people,
and he's like, that's just a fact.
He did say that was just a fact.
Like,
and
you can't even...
Well, to Destiny's credit, Destiny was like, what, really? And JonTron's like, yo, look it up. And then Destiny Googled it, and he's like, I can't find any information supporting that
that's like
at all.
Because that's an impossible statistic to even test. Because you can't, like... What's your cutoff there? How do you find the poorest of the poor white man and the richest of the rich black man and figure out who's committing more crimes? Yeah. Generally speaking.
There was also, he kept talking about how America has a white culture, and we don't want to lose that.
We don't want to lose that by mixing up the gene pool.
Yeah.
Because America, the melting pot of the world, as we are self-styled to be, is a predominantly white country, which that's actually technically true.
Oh, it is
true. In a lot of ways. Like, white culture really does dominate it.
Totally.
But that's not the goal anymore.
Well, it's like Destiny kept making these points where he kept saying to JonTron, like, hey, you know what, like, maybe white people are going to become the minority soon,
but so
and
what?
Yeah, and the culture will change to reflect the people who, like, the other minority groups, but more so
what?
Yeah, what's bad about that? And he kept
saying, who cares?
Yeah, he kept saying to JonTron, like, okay, but what's bad about that?
Yeah, and it's not like, I feel like a lot of people who are against this kind of idea and are like, this is bad, are thinking, like, overnight, suddenly, we're going to be living under Sharia law. And there's nothing we can do about it. Mm-hmm. And that sucks. And I agree. If I woke up tomorrow and we were living under Sharia law, that'd be rough.
It'd be pretty bad.
I don't think I'd be very happy about that. But that's not how it works.
Dude, Corinne would be very upset.
Corinne would have a real bad time. But that, like, that's not how this works.
No.
Letting, like, immigrants into the country is not going to instantaneously change our culture. It's not. It's just going to gradually mix more variation into the culture, and ideally we would learn to work with that.
Which is kind of,
you know, all be happy together.
And mixing the culture together to make a new thing is kind of what America's been doing since, like, its inception.
Yeah. I remember all those white people unified back in 1900.
Yeah.
We talked about. Everybody loved those Irish. Everybody loved those Italians.
Yeah, no, he made some other points like how...
It's not like there are tons of racial slurs for both of those ethnic groups of white people.
He kept talking about how the idea of Americans' culture changing from immigration is a recent phenomenon. JonTron was saying this. And that prior to that, America had been great.
Yeah.
And the thing that Destiny kept bringing up was like, well, wait, but immigrants have always been coming to America, like... And just because they're white, they haven't always been seen as the same as the other white people or welcome. Yeah. And he brought up the things about Irish immigrants in America.
They were never discriminated against.
And JonTron flat out said, like, that's not true.
Yeah, that's why there's like an Irish district in Boston where it was like literally a ghetto where all the Irish immigrants were forced to live. No discrimination.
JonTron also talked about how he was worried about...
That's why the Italians were called the black N-words, or the white N-words.
Which is something Destiny brought up, and
Yeah.
JonTron just didn't believe him.
It's true!
JonTron was like laughing about it, because he's like, come on.
It's
true, it happened. Like, it's a horrible thing about history, but it happened. There's also this thing where JonTron kept bringing up this stuff about African Americans. Yeah. It's a thing that I often hear Republican or conservative people in the U.S. say.
And it's weird.
He kept saying that, hey, slavery and Jim Crow no longer exist. Mm-hmm. So why aren't these people, the current generation, should take more responsibility?
No problem.
Yeah. And Destiny kept trying to say, like, yeah, but those institutions still have lingering effects on society because they've shaped society.
Like
we have to recognize
in South
that.
Africa.
Yeah.
It's like this. You see this stuff all over the world. This is a thing everywhere.
And just because they're not around anymore doesn't mean that they haven't still ingrained problems into the society that they were once in.
I mean, ever since that whole rape of Nanking thing happened in World War II, and then, World War II ended, so none of that was happening anymore. Like, Japan wasn't fucking up China super hard anymore. They get along great.
Oh, they do?
Because all the problems are gone.
JonTron brought up Japan during
Japan and China get along fantastic.
Because JonTron, when he was talking
Please
about...
note the sarcasm.
When he was talking about how your culture should stay... That you should stay like...
purity of culture.
Yeah, purity of culture.
The least eugenics advocating man of all time.
He brought up Japan. He's like, see, Japan is great. And Destiny just blew up at him because, like, Japan has some serious problems with racism, you guys.
I am a big fan of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I have been to that country twice. I really like it there.
There are great things about Japan.
There's a lot of wonderful shit about Japan. But speaking as somebody who's a big old anime fan, I love their video games, I love their culture, I love all that stuff. I'm basically a huge weeaboo. Except for one key factor. And that's that I realize that Japan's pretty fucked. There's a lot of stuff in their culture that is super backward.
I mean, do you remember Mr. Popo?
Yeah! No, for real!
For real!
When I was in Japan, I was walking down the street, and I saw a tanning salon called the Black People Tanning Salon. Just right there.
I forgot about that story.
In the middle of Tokyo. And I looked at it, and I was like, alright! Their culture has a lot of serious issues, both internally, like Japanese people with other Japanese people, like as part of Japanese culture, but also looking externally. Their xenocentrism has led them to have a lot of problems with other cultures as well.
And as Destiny brought up during the debate, a lot of other Asian cultures, and this is what he was trying to bring up with JonTron.
There's serious racist sentiment against Chinese and Korean people in Japan.
And this was the thing he tried to bring up with JonTron when JonTron had been talking about how all European white people see each other the same, and Destiny was like, well, they don't, and also the Japanese don't see other Asian people as the same. Like, that was the whole reason why they were an Axis power in World War II.
Because they were the superior Asian race.
Yeah, there was a reason why they were allied with the Nazis.
Led by their god emperor, Hirohito. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that to make him sound cool. He actually was the god emperor.
He was a self-styled god emperor.
Yeah.
God Emperor Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
But
Some Warhammer 40k shit.
As you mentioned, the rape of Nanking. They did some stuff to the Chinese that was pretty messed up.
They have this fun habit of just not acknowledging that any of that stuff happened.
They do. Even today, they still do.
Mm. No, they are super historically revisionist about the bad things that they did as a country back in the day.
Yep.
Whoop-de-doo.
So no, but the reason why we can keep bringing stuff up from this debate,
but there's no point really in just letting it roll.
Yeah, no, JonTron just kept digging that hole.
It's being dug yet.
If you want to watch that,
he'll be in China soon, and then he can ask Japan. They're right over there, so he can ask Japan.
But it was like. Every statement he was making was just worse than the last. At one point, they were talking about the last presidential election, and Destiny was like, okay, but you got to admit, like, there was some racist stuff going on in the past presidential,
like the election of Donald Trump, and things like that. And
JonTron literally said, "I don't recall Donald Trump making any racist statements." And the guy and Destiny again flipped out and was like, "Dude, he started his campaign by saying that all Mexican immigrants are rapists. Criminals and rapists, but sure, some of them might be okay people." And JonTron's response was, "Well, yeah, because a lot of them are criminals, but some of them might be okay people." and Destiny was like, "But the statistics don't bear that out. They're minority criminals."
He's talking out his ass.
So,
well, anyway,
it's just very, very.
So the political slant of this podcast is apparent now.
Yeah, but it's very.
Not like we were hiding it that well before.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is because we talked about all the PewDiePie drama.
Yeah, and this is kind of in line with that.
It's kind of in line, except if anything, this is like to a much higher degree.
Because this seems much more genuine. Like, PewDiePie said and did some shitty stuff, but he was clearly intending it as comedy.
Yeah.
And it just means he did a shitty job telling the joke.
Mm-hmm. And that offended some people, but that wasn't, you could tell that was not, it wasn't actually his ideology or his personal beliefs. He just was trying to make a joke.
Whereas this is getting deep enough now that if this were a joke, JonTron would have been like, haha, I full joke by now.
By now, yes.
We're beyond the joke point.
Now, as...
It's a good term. It's like choke point.
Ooh. But as I think I mentioned it at the start of this, a lot of the reason why I think JonTron is being vocal about this right now is because he sees, he lives on the internet.
Yeah.
And on the internet, there is certainly the left and the right are very polarized.
Absolutely. Because like any internet argument, people are anonymous, so they get super shitty towards each other.
And the people that JonTron probably deals with on the internet much more are the left than the right. And
because they enjoy video games and humor.
Yes, they do.
More than the other side tends to.
But there's definitely, and Destiny points this out, although one of the things that I will knock Destiny for a little bit is I wish he made a bigger point of this or focused on this issue more, because it was clearly this sort of trigger that set JonTron down this path.
He's triggered.
He's triggered. But a lot of people on the far left, especially online, will definitely do a lot of tone policing, where they're just like, okay, you have an opinion that does not align with mine, so you're awful and horrible, and you shouldn't be allowed to say anything.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
To make that criticism, because it's true.
Yeah, and I think now I'll make that criticism of JonTron, but when this all started, I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I understand that that's an issue, and I want people to be able to say their piece, but it's just, but the way I see it right now is JonTron has said his piece.
But there's also a difference when it comes to, like, arguing a point, is when a person making, there's a difference between saying, like, no, this is how it is, and presenting your argument and allowing the other person to present an argument back.
Yeah.
And creating a dialogue. And what happens with a lot of this stuff online is somebody on either side will put out a well-reasoned argument, and the person they are talking to will be like, fuck you, idiot, do your research. Or something. And that's not productive.
Not at all.
Not in the slightest. I have tried talking to people numerous times and been like, look, here's why I think this stuff is bad. Here's why I think that this side of this argument is wrong. And most of the time, the response I receive is, wow, you're stupid. Do your research. And I'm like, that's great. Thank you for illuminating me to your side of this situation.
Which brings me to the thing that I will give.
And that's kind of what JonTron's doing in some ways here. He's like,
a little bit.
Not extremely, but it gets to that point.
It gets to that point a couple times in the debate, but it seems more so that he is just misinformed on things.
It's more he's making arguments back that are ignorant.
Yeah, but he's looked at research that just that is biased or not true, and then he takes that as being true.
Yeah.
But I will give him credit. I will give Destiny a lot of credit, because They both sat down and had a very long dialogue.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a point during it where one of them was like, I can't even talk to you anymore, this is over.
Or one of them just broke down out of it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty surprising, actually.
If you listen to it, it actually is super surprising that neither of them did that. But
anyway,
so that all happened, and we weren't going to talk about it because
now we just talked about it a ton.
But then that by itself is pretty gossipy.
Yeah,
we weren't going to do that, but there were more ramifications to that yesterday. And we have an article here from, I think mine's from Destructoid. There's articles all over the place about it. But Playtonic, that's how you pronounce it, right? The developer for Yooka-Lalyee, which is going to be released in, I think, pretty soon, a couple weeks. They were going to have John do a voiceover for a character, which I think was going to be like DLC content.
Was it? Okay. I mean, I don't know.
I could be wrong about that. I think because they haven't like announced who the character was, so I'm pretty sure that it was either DLC. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was DLC. It's something that hasn't happened yet. And they announced yesterday that that's not happening, and they have no interest in working with him because of what has happened. And let's see. They have some quotes here.
Playtonic decided, hey, we don't want JonTron to do this voice in our game anymore.
Yeah.
And what they said was, and I quote, JonTron is a talented video presenter who we were initially 2 years ago happy to include as a voice contributor in our game. However, in light of his recent personal viewpoints, we have made the decision to remove JonTron's inclusion in the game via a forthcoming content update. Okay, so it was DLC.
Okay.
We would like to make absolutely clear that we do not endorse or support JonTron's personal viewpoints, and that as an external fan contributor, he does not represent Playtonic in any capacity. Playtonic is a studio that celebrates diversity in all forms, yada yada yada. We deeply regret any association that could make players feel anything but 100% comfortable in our game worlds, or distract from the incredible goodwill and love shown by our fans and Kickstarter backers. Very well put PR release about this situation, in my opinion. A lot of people are like, fine with this. I'm fine with it. I don't care.
Yeah. It's
I completely understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, I think that it's probably less likely that it is. I mean, I guess it's maybe I'll put it at 50-50 that they actually are politically like diametrically opposed to him, but I think it might be more likely that they feel like this is something that could hurt their sales, so they want to distance themselves from it.
Little from column A, little from column B.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from a PR move, I totally get why they're doing it. And the like memo they put out is very like reasonable sounding. It's not like ridiculous. I've seen some reactions to this that are like full of vitriol of people being like, I can't believe they're doing this. I'm not buying the game anymore. And people trying to get like Kickstarter refunds. But it's like this small fraction of the people who gave money to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's like, dude, they have every right to cut him from the game if he said all this shit.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be associated with it.
It's just marketing.
They have every right. Like
they're trying to sell copies of their game. They don't want this getting in the way of that.
Yeah, they don't want their game associated with this crap.
Now, I think what I had seen...
It's a bummer for JonTron because he's a huge fan of Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah. Oh, that must actually really sting, because these are
Banjo-Kazooie's like his favorite game.
Yeah, and these are the creators of Banjo-Kazooie being like, dude, you're like repulsive to us.
Yep.
That's ooh.
Yeah, this must hurt. I thought about that earlier today and was like, oh man.
He made a statement that was JonTron put out a statement that was perfectly reasonable, where he talked about how I was like, I was honored to be part of the project, but it's okay that they don't want me. I'm fine with that. I will also point out that JonTron put out a video, I think on his YouTube channel, maybe not 100% sure, it might have been on his Twitter, that was just him saying, it was in the wake of the debate, and he was just saying, I am not a skilled debater, and I messed that up, and I said some things that weren't cool, and I'm sorry. So, yeah.
It might be mean of me to say, But that comes off to me as just trying to backpedal really hard.
It's one of those things where if he had a PewDiePie type situation where he said like one thing or maybe a couple of jokes that were like that, and then he put out this apology video, I'd be like, okay, you made some dumb jokes. You're sorry. We're gonna move on. But after listening to an hour of that debate, I'm like, no, the debate thing is clearly what you really think because you kept going at it.
That comes off to me as really just trying to save face, which is unfortunate.
You know what's funny?
Too late.
The last JonTron video that he put out where he did a channel update.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I watched it.
It was like a month or two ago, I think. One of the things he mentioned was he's like, maybe I should talk about politics. Fans keep telling me I should talk about politics. Maybe I should get into that. Like he offhandedly mentioned it. And at the time I was like, oh, I wonder what his politics are. And now I'm like, oh, no. Oh. Thank goodness that
oh no,
I can get out now. But what was I going to say? Oh, he is under the same, what is it called? YouTube umbrella.
Normal Boots. He's co-founder of Normal Boots.
No, it's the parent company. Disney's thing.
Oh, Maker.
Yeah, so he's sort of employed by Maker. It's YouTube Network, I think that's what it's referred to as. In the same way that PewDiePie was. And PewDiePie was dropped from Maker after his comments happened. Yeah. And like, JonTron's comments are, you could pretty easily make the argument that they're much worse.
Yeah, so...
so if Maker doesn't drop him, I will be genuinely surprised.
I'm a little worried too, because JonTron is, like I said, he's co-founder of Normal Boots as well, which he puts out his stuff under. Pro Jared, Gerard, the finishist, that's what fucking people call him as a joke. The completionist.
Yeah.
God damn it.
The finishist.
Fuck. It's because the freaking Game Grumps call him Pro Gerard, the finishist. As a joke, and that's how I hear him referred to most of the time. It's Pro Jared, the completionist, and I think Peanut Butter Gamer are all under that umbrella as well. And given that John is kind of their boss in some ways, I'm concerned. I don't want this to have fallout for those guys because they're all right dudes. As far as I know. Maybe for all I know, the completionist is going to post a video tomorrow about like how long to complete the racial cleansing of the United States.
I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I remember Peanut Butter Gamer posting...
He's the one who I've never really watched much of his stuff.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him, but I remember seeing some stuff on Twitter with him where he was... he seems to be very liberal.
Yeah.
So
because I've watched some of Pro Jared's like Monster Hunter stuff, and I've watched a fair amount of the completionist stuff. I like his videos a lot, actually.
So so I don't know if there's going to be any clashing over that with those guys, but
I just don't want any of the fallout to hit them.
Yeah,
they haven't done.
They didn't do anything.
They're kind of associated though, like by some weird proxy.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right, let's move on.
Let's talk about Overwatch.
Overwatch on March 21st.
Yeah.
Overwatch's 1.9 update went live, and Orisa is playable.
African Centaur Mom. Finally. So she finally went live. She was on the PTR for like much longer than most characters. She was on there for like 3 weeks, I think. Which I get because she's kind of a complicated character. In what I have played, not sure how I feel about her. Part of me, unlike with Ana and Sombra, feels like, oh, she's kind of overpowered, but that also could be because most of what I was playing this past week was arcade, no limits mode, which meant there could be as many Orisas as you wanted. And she definitely has abilities that when you start stacking multiple uses of them on a team feel really overpowered. So I need to play more games with like where like it's restricted to just one of her at a time on a team before I can pass judgment on that. She's neat. Her gun is really satisfying to use.
Well, that's good, because it looks like it would be really satisfying to use.
It is really satisfying to shoot. You can also shoot, like, forever, because the magazine size is, like, 150 or something. Other than that, though, from my time playing as her, I didn't play as her a ton. I didn't quite get into the rhythm of her, and I think my problem with her is it feels somewhat like she doesn't really have her own identity as a character. And I don't know if that's as much that some of her abilities are very similar to other characters' abilities, given that she has like a little gravity suck thing, and like she can drop a shield like Winston and Reinhardt's thing, or that her gun kind of feels like Soldier 76's. I actually think it's more on the character side of things. Because I like her design-wise, but personality-wise, at least right now, she feels very lacking.
Okay.
Because her personality is, I'm a robot designed to protect people. Which, when you compare it to most of the other Overwatch characters, is pretty bland.
Well, one of the things that was brought up about this character from a story perspective that I thought was interesting is that almost all the other Overwatch characters have a history in the world.
Whereas she's brand new.
She's right off the assembly
like,
line.
Literally.
So she doesn't get to have any of that, which is good in a way because you want a variety of characters.
Yeah, you want some that are like kind of a blank slate in that world. So that is nice in that respect. It's funny because I almost feel like she'd be more interesting if instead of having her own personality, she was either piloted by or remotely controlled by the little girl.
That's what I originally thought she was going to be remotely controlled.
Yeah, me too. And I think that would almost be more interesting because based on the little bit we've got, Effie already kind of has more personality than her. Even with the little snippets we got. So I feel bad saying it because I like the characters in Overwatch so much that I feel bad saying that one of them's not doesn't feel up to snuff as far as their personality goes. But that could also just be like her also just being new to the game. There's not a lot of interactions between her and other characters yet. There's not a lot of new voice lines and things for her yet. Maybe she's going to be in one of the animated shorts at some point.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Because, like, Sombra had the huge advantage of having an animated short come out, like, with her release.
Yeah.
At the same time, so we immediately got this awesome look at her character
and
personality.
I figured that would happen again with Orisa, but apparently not.
Well, they talked about those videos, and, like, making one of those things takes, like, months and months and months.
I'm sure it does.
Like, it's really hard. So they have like multiple in the works at the same time, and every so often they're like, okay, this one's not as important, we can't really afford the time for this, so make it a comic book or something. They've been shimmying it down to other types of media that they've been putting out.
Yeah.
So I hope Orisa gets something more significant than just a comic book to really push her personality. Because like look at all the other characters you got. Like you got Reaper, he's the edgiest edgelord. No one out-edges him. He's great. You got even like Bastion, who's just a robot who doesn't even talk, has a ton of personality. But it's weird that I feel like Bastion has more personality than Orisa. But that could also be partly because Bastion had that amazing animated short.
He did. So
there's that.
So yeah, I feel like if they can come out with a good animated short for Orisa, we're gonna be all good.
It might be gravy. But as far as character goes, she plays well. Her abilities are cool and fun to use. Absolutely. I just feel like for whatever reason she is lacking in her own kind of identity.
Yeah.
In the game, she kind of just feels like that other tank right now.
Okay.
She's no Reinhardt.
No Reinhardt.
Neo got a update recently. Today, actually, I think. 1.06. And one of the big changes this update adds, in addition to new submissions, he's really fixated on that guy.
I love that guy's face.
Yeah. They got their big old tongue sticking out. Listen, man, Japanese demons, they got crazy tongues. Mm-hmm. Like, all of them have crazy tongues.
So it got an update. What are the features that it added?
It added some new submissions, which is kind of cool. So free update adding some content. Oh, I'm getting the hiccups.
You got that guy.
It's the hiccups now. But it also had the ability to pause the game.
Oh.
And you might be like, that's weird. Why would they do that? Couldn't you pause it before? The reason being, I'm assuming, because this is like a Souls type game. And those games do not allow you to pause, mostly due to their persistent online component. Which this also shared. So them adding this pause feature is in some ways kind of cool. Because it sets them apart from the others, like from Souls games. It gives you something you can't do in those games. You can pause the game when you need to go take a pee or something. You don't have to worry about getting killed. But at the same time, it makes me wonder how it's going to work with the online content. As far as, like, meeting other players and things like that. Because they're adding PvP, but I don't know how it's going to work. So it's an interesting addition. they did some other adjustments and things. Like, you can now carry way more smithing materials for making items. So it's just some, like, quality of life changes and stuff, too. Bug fixes, things like that. So it's quite a bit. And this is nice to see, as there is a DLC content pack coming in April, too. So we're getting quite a lot of, they're following this game pretty well as a developer and, like, continuing to add stuff to it, which is neat.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's the little... Neo is the little AAA title from Koei Tecmo that could.
The little AAA title.
They made it.
Article from yesterday, from today, the 24th, from Polygon, about third-party games on the Switch and their price points.
People have noticed. It first happened with Rhyme, when prices were listed for that game. People noticed that the Switch version was $10 more. It was $39.99 as opposed to $29.99. And people are like, what's up with that? What's going on? And now we found out that Minecraft Story Mode will launch on June 27th, but will also cost more money than... it'll also cost $39.99 on the Switch. And the people on Polygon here reached out to Telltale Games to ask about that. And this is something that is... People have been asking this of Nintendo and other publishers and have been getting nothing but really, like, vague responses. If you scroll down on here a bit, I think they have the quote from... the quote from the Rhyme developers.
Response was not great.
Yeah, saying that the MSRP of the Switch version is based on development and go-to-market costs, which can vary for each platform. So the only answer we've really gotten about this is, sometimes it just costs a little more money to get a game released on certain consoles.
Oof.
And we were talking about how we thought the Switch would make a great indie game machine, because they've got so many good indie titles lined up. But now, what if all these indie titles end up costing like $10 more on the Switch? That's going to be discouraging.
It's weird because they were talking about development costs, but the whole deal with the Switch is it's supposed to be easier to develop for.
Right.
So why does it cost more to port it?
It's weird.
And is this a thing? Is this like a price point that Nintendo is forcing on them because like they have to pay Nintendo some sort of larger amount of money to get their game on the platform, so they need to hike up the price so they can still make a profit?
Yeah.
Like, is that part of it? Because that is a bad call on Nintendo's part. They should not put up a barrier like that.
An interesting thing is European publisher FDG Entertainment is releasing a game called Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom on the Switch in spring. And they're petitioning fans to vote for a physical release of the game on the Switch. And one of their big promises along with that is that they will have identical prices across all consoles. And since it's up to the publisher to determine pricing for games usually, this kind of comes off as a weird marketing stunt. To get people to be like... We'll buy your game. Get a thing going on, then you won't have to pay more money. Like, it's weird.
It is weird.
It's really weird. So, I mean, we haven't seen a difference in, like, bigger name games yet. We don't know. I mean, Zelda didn't cost extra, but that's first-party game, so of course it wouldn't. But I guess we'll see.
Nintendo, you're on the verge of bringing third parties back. Don't do this.
Yeah, like, please stop.
Please.
But it might not even be entirely Nintendo's fault.
No, it might be that it just is a lot of extra work to develop for the Switch. So
or publishers just want to screw people over.
There is the possibility that publishers are thinking Nintendo Switch is the hot new console.
We can charge more money and people will buy games for it anyway.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
But really what I feel like that's going to do is dissuade people from buying the Switch.
Yes. Well,
thanks, publisher.
I think that, it's possible if that's what's happening. I feel like it's not only because it's not like third-party smaller indie devs are less likely to do shit like that. Usually it's the AAA ones that do that. In addition, why would so many small third-party publishers all have the same idea?
Yeah.
So I feel like this is Nintendo's fault.
We'll see.
We're going to find out.
Last story, we can talk about this quickly. So, an animator for Uncharted, who used to work at BioWare, he works for the Uncharted series, making the Uncharted games, talked about Mass Effect Andromeda's facial expressions, which we have talked about being awful, and all their general animations. And he basically says, the guy's name is Jonathan Cooper, and he basically says, look, animation's a lot of work. When you're making a game like Uncharted, you are working with a very set linear experience. So you know what's going to be in it, you know what's going to happen, you know what animations you need to make for whatever situation.
Yeah.
And you can do it by hand, basically, so to speak. You can tailor it. But with an RPG, there's so much stuff that's like less scripted, and there's so many more options and so many more ways things can go, that to do all of that by hand would be super, super difficult. So what you do as a developer is that basically the game's animations may not even be like touched by a developer, and that instead they will be developed by like a computer algorithm that creates just canned animations basically that you can use for characters doing stuff. You attach it to a rig and just let it go. And these are often used for bigger games like RPGs. They were used for for the older Mass Effect games and stuff as well. So he basically says, so if these animations look crappy, it's probably not because anybody did a crappy job making them. It's probably because the algorithm that made them wasn't as good as other algorithms. Okay, I will accept that as an explanation for why the animations look bad. What I won't accept is that for some reason, the team developing Mass Effect Andromeda, the latest entry in the Mass Effect series, a game which, if it was made with algorithms for its animations before now, they sure as hell looked better than this. How did these guys somehow not have a good enough algorithm to make animations not look like crap? Eh?
Yeah.
Anything? Like, is that not a valid question?
There was a story that I totally forgot to put in the rundown, but we definitely should talk about because I was originally going to talk about it, and then one of our listeners also pointed out that we should talk about it, and I was like, oh yeah, no, that's important. And it has to do with this, which is the whole Gamergaters being added again with Mass Effect. Well, not that they've attacked Mass Effect before, but they're at it again attacking Mass Effect. Or, more specifically, someone who they thought was a Mass Effect employee and responsible for the facial capture stuff.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull up.
Oh yeah, there's all this hubbub about it. But now we know the truth. No one was responsible for the bad animation. It was a computer!
It's fine, it was a computer.
In the most science fiction-y scenario of all time.
Gameology. Oh, this is a video. You're the worst, Facebook. Get out of here, I don't want to hear you. The Mass Effect... Yeah, this isn't like an article at all. Darn it! I forgot to prep an article for the show, and now it's all going to shit.
Just forget about it. It's fine.
We're
like pretty much out of time anyway.
I know, it's just important. There was a woman who was identified online by people online as a BioWare animator. This was not true.
Yep.
But that did not stop a bunch of people
from being like, "Oh, fuck you! You killed Mass Effect."
Yeah, basically some really horrendous online harassment.
Yep. Always looking for a reason.
And the BioWare had to release a statement saying, "Hey, you guys, it's not." This person didn't even work on the game.
Yeah.
Also, it's not okay to harass people, even if they did work on the game. Like, you can't do that. And I think that a lot of the people who were committing the harassment were identifying as part of that Gamergate crowd who just love to...
Still somehow exists.
Still love to harass women.
That's all they got.
I think that is all they got.
That's all they got.
And it's just disappointing and sad.
And now we know the truth. It was just a computer that did a crappy job.
It was just a computer.
Because apparently the algorithm they have now is worse than the one that they had for Mass Effect 1. Wow. So anyway, let's go out by playing that, or we'll talk about games coming out and then play that video.
So it's the 24th today?
Yep.
Which means we have...
Some games came out, I guess.
Zero...
Mass Effect Andromeda came out this past week.
Yeah.
As did Tokiden 2.
Troll and I.
Yes. Mario Sports Superstars came out today.
For the 3DS.
So Zero Escape, the nonary game.
Okay.
On the 28th, we have a bunch of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh.
Parappa the Rapper remastered.
Oh.
On PS4.
That's nice.
Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 3.
Alright.
And on the 30th, we have a probably bad Attack on Titan 3DS game.
Oh, no.
And Muso Stars, if you want to play a Muso game with a bunch of characters from Muso games in it. Fuck me.
You probably don't. There's some cool stuff coming up at the beginning of April, but we're not there yet, so we're not going to talk about it.
There's one really cool thing at the beginning of April.
We can't talk about it yet.
It's Dangerous Goods.
It's Dangerous Goods. And we're going to end the show by playing a little amazing...
video of a stone monster fighting a guardian in Breath of the Wild.
Our patron voted story.
Yeah.
And I assume that it'll be fine to play this. Let's hope that it...
Yeah, look at he's punching the robot. So as this was described in an article I read, it's like you create your own kaiju battle.
Yeah, you kind of did. So this is one of the what they're called guardians, right?
Yeah, the spider robot thing.
The spider robot things from Breath of the Wild fighting one of the big stone elemental guys.
They're a type of world boss that you'll just run into. And somebody just lured a guardian over to one, and they started hitting each other, and they got pissed, and they started fighting each other. And the Guardian don't stand a chance, because he can't aim good at the weak spot on the stone talus. And he's crawling around and missing legs. Oh, and the finishing hit. Yeah! Look at it go! That's the best.
So this was just a beautiful bit of gameplay that after all of
really special.
After all the downers from this week, it was just nice to watch.
Nice to see a rock monster fight a horrific spider mech.
But yeah, if you're listening to this in the audio form, you want to go watch that. That is a guardian and a stone talus fighting from Breath of the Wild. I'm sure you can find it if you just Google it. It's like less than a minute long, and it's worth your time.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, with that, we are all done. And I only messed up and I'm reporting on one story, so I'm about that. This has been Don't Copy That Floppy with Lex and Dan. We are a video game news podcast broadcasting live on Fridays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On chipit.net, also on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast. You can check out our show archives on iTunes, on chipit.net, also on YouTube if you want that video. And you can find us on all sorts of social media.
All that stuff.
Yeah. Usually under the username DCTF Podcast, or you can search Don't Copy That Floppy Podcast. If you want to support the show, you can either support us on Patreon, or you can leave us a nice iTunes review. We would appreciate that.
Yes.
But I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So until next week, remember,
don't copy that floppy.